This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we're celebrating a third NCAA championship in the last 4 years for the women's rowing team. Plus, Katherine Cook and Adedire Fakorede finished their careers in style at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships as All-Americans. And the men's tennis duo of senior Ben Rosen and sophomore Jacob Kauppila earned All-America honors as well. That's coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates women's rowing team left no room for doubt on Saturday, winning both grand finals to take home the Bobcats' second straight national championship, and their third in the last 4 years. The first varsity 8 won its first gold medal at the NCAA Championships in program history. Led by first-year coxswain Liza Folsom, Bates defeated runner-up Ithaca by about 4 seconds in the grand final.
It was pretty tight up until the 1K. Ithaca was up on us for a little bit, but as soon as I said they were up, the girls were like, no way, and immediately shot ahead.
Senior captain Olivia Stokely describes her reaction when Bates crossed the finish line.
I think it was just pure joy. I mean, you'd like to think in the last 250, you're like, okay, I have it. I think I'm going to get it, but anything can happen in the last 250 of a race. So to have held Ithaca off and to have really given it our all was just an incredible, incredible feeling.
The second varsity 8 won its 5th straight gold medal at the NCAA Championships, but it was not easy. The Bobcats finished second to Wellesley in their heat on Friday. Then they rallied and outraced the Blue by a little more than a second in Saturday's grand final. Senior captain Grace Jurkovich looks back on the narrow win.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got pushed in the heat and then again in the final more than we have pretty much all season. So it really was kind of actually seeing that Wellesley was going to put up a huge fight in the heat and then adjusting for that in the final. And that's something the coach talked us through, and he really described it as kind of like poking the bear awake. And so like we were ready for that. We knew that they were going to kind of hold us neck and neck the entire way. So then going out there and knowing that we were going to have to give it our all and then being able to do that because we were prepared mentally.
Speaking of Coach Steenstra, he joined the Bobcast to recap the NCAA Championships for the women and to preview this weekend's IRA National Championships for the men.
That race was months, if not years, in the making. It was something that they had been very prepared for and focused on, and they had been racing at that almost the exact same pace and the exact same strategy-wise, going through the 2,000 meters. Nothing about that was anything at all interesting or exciting, and that's exactly why they're national champions, is because they're just flat out that much better.
Yeah, it's interesting. There wasn't much drama at all, really. I mean, Williams wasn't even in the grand final. Wasn't that weird?
Yeah, no. I mean, we knew that, but we were focused more on the boats that were going to have the real speed to compete, and so we knew that it would be somewhere in that second 500 meters. Ithaca would make a very strong move. They're always quick off the line, so we kind of expected that anyway. But it was through that second 500 that we knew we'd be able to establish our dominance in the piece. And then anyone who watches the video, you can see that there was no way that anyone was going to be able to haul them in through that second 1,000 meters. The second 1,000 was kind of like a victory tour at that point.
Right. And, you mentioned before there's a lot of experience. If I was looking through it, there were 3 seniors in that boat, right? So there's still a lot of people coming back.
Yeah, try not to tell anybody. So, 3 seniors in the boat, And the second boat, what do we have? 2 in there plus a coxswain. So, 3. But, either way you slice it, we're losing 21 seniors out of an entire group of 60-plus people. That's men and women included. Mm-hmm. So a third of the program is graduating. And so mostly what that is a big portion of the personality of the team. Mm-hmm. When you have one large class that's working its way through, the program is going to inevitably take on the personality of that group.
How about the venue? Because that was obviously new for everyone. What were your impressions of it?
Beautiful race course. it's the only place we've ever been to where it's a piece of water specifically designed for rowing, designed and built for rowing. Yeah. So to have a whole warm up portion of the water, and then even like, I don't even know what they call it, the back channel, in order to, like, you go through the race course, then you come back on a back channel that was built for, so that the entire system is in a big circle. It's just it was a great experience for them. It was cool for me to be there and see it for the first time. No one can control the weather, and Florida's going to be Florida, and that's just the way it goes. And there was a lot of rain, and so the whole place turned into a giant mud pit, but everyone kind of took that with a smile and just kept going.
Yeah, it definitely was very muddy on land, but it sounded like the water conditions were perfect.
Water conditions were perfect, especially on the final day. We were fully expecting 15-mile-an-hour crosswinds, and it turned into almost glass. I mean, there might have been 2 or 3 mile-an-hour puffs here and there, but there was nothing. It was really, really nice.
Second varsity finished second to Wellesley in their heat on Friday. Was that surprising to you? Was that surprising to the people in the boat?
Surprising that we lost.
Well, surprising that Wellesley was that fast, I guess.
No. We always expect Wellesley in particular to get faster. They're very well coached. We knew that they would get better anyway, so that's something we fully expected. You never expect to lose a heat or something like that, but I think that the women responded to it very well. The only thing I kind of mentioned to them was that they're at the end of that loss. That's the first time they were challenged, so they got better that day, and then they showed that in the final.
Yeah, in the final they were down there a little bit, but then they rallied. What did you see from them over the last 500 there?
I saw their true speed, and they felt their full potential in the second half of that race course.
Excellent. Now let's look ahead a little bit to IRAs coming up this week, and obviously maybe different expectations, if you will, but you're the same in a way because you still want the expectations to go as fast as possible, right?
Well, the expectations based on the rest of the rowing world is that we're supposed to go there and be last. So when you take that approach and you start to look at who else is involved in the race, there's groups that they're both that we're just not going to catch, and so we shouldn't even plan on that. We're not going to do the old pie in the sky thing and shoot for the stars and land on the moon, all that nonsense. We're not going to do any of that. This is going to be let's surgically go into this thing. Let's figure out who we can go after. We're going to race 4 times no matter what. We're supposed to finish last, so let's see who we can pick off along the way. The heats and land assignments just came out, so we know who's in that race now. And this morning at the end of practice, the guys loaded the trailer, and I said, we kind of got together and chatted. And we just need to treat all 4 races like a grand final. Because, in our opening heat, there's Cornell. When are we ever going to get a chance to race the Cornell Varsity 8 again, right? So let's just see what you can do against that Varsity 8. And same thing with Penn and so on and so forth. And then once you get through the heat and you're in the reps, which is exactly where we should be, then there's going to be 3 other boats that we probably have never seen before, and let's see who we can beat in that group and just continue on through the regatta that way. It's not a matter of figuring out how to get through the race and hoping to save the best for last and all that. No. We're not going to overthink this thing. Let's just go and line up every chance we line up, and every time they say the word go, we give it everything we've got.
Is it kind of weird as a coach to go from being expected to win the national title to being expected to finish last in something?
It is quite different, yeah. It's quite different. You want to, with the women, it was trying to calm them down in some ways because a lot of them were getting very excited, and obviously they were feeling the pressure of that expectation to win. And the guys are getting all excited because there's no expectation from the outside world for us to do much of anything there. At this moment, we're kind of the novelty group, and we're getting emails of congratulations from all the big time people and coaches and everything else, and we appreciate all that. But we're going in this thing to pick a fight and see who we can get on top of.
Well, and I saw Marist got in, right, and that's a team that's a crew you already beat, right?
We've already beaten them, yeah. And then there's a few others that we're pretty excited about because on paper we have every reason to think we can get in front of them. From the 2 crews that are coming in from San Diego, and then Temple and St. Joe's out of Philadelphia. Those are 2 crews that I think are within our reach, and certainly if it ends up that we're all in the fourth level final together, then great. It's going to be an awesome race no matter what.
Excellent. Well, any other thoughts on this past weekend, and where does the women's program go from here?
Well, if you were to ask any one of the women on the team, I think the answer to that is we go right back to the bottom of the mountain. We say goodbye to the seniors, and we welcome in the new freshman class, and then we start up the mountain again.
It was an All-American Thursday for the Bates track and field teams at the NCAA Outdoor Championships, with seniors Katherine Cook and Adedire Fakorede bringing home hardware. Seeded 12th in the 10,000 meters, Cook raced to the finish in 35 minutes, 17.48 seconds, to finish second in the nation in the event. She finished over 40 seconds ahead of the third-place finisher and shattered her own team record in the event by over 20 seconds. She finishes her cross-country and track career as a 4-time All-American. And her national runner-up performance in the 10,000 meters is the best finish for a woman in an NCAA championship race in Bates track history. Women's head coach Jay Hartshorn looks back on Cook's performance and the trip as a whole.
She went into the meet, I think, seeded 12th or 13th, but we weren't really paying attention to that because the goal was to run 1:10K before nationals and to just sort of run a pretty comfortable race. So when she ran her qualifying at NESCACs and won, we just set her up on a pace and said, we know this will get in and just sort of stay here, then we'll see how it feels. So she felt like that race had been really comfortable. So I had definitely much higher expectations as she did going into it. The woman that won from Ithaca felt a little bit untouchable, but I was so proud of her for going after her and, trying to make it happen.
Yeah, and she got second place by a fairly wide margin too, right?
Yeah, it was a really, really weird race. So they had moved it from a noon start time till 8:45 a.m. start time because of the heat, which was really nice because then we got to see D-Ray throw after. So that was our sort of biggest bonus. But people were pretty weary of the heat. And I watched the men run before, and I was feeling a little like it looks hot out there. And that's how the race sort of went, that some people looked like they were kind of wilting because of the heat. So I wanted her to be a little bit more conservative than she ended up being. So the woman who won just went out and kind of went after it, and Katherine sort of followed her out. So that woman opened up a big lead on Katherine, and then Katherine opened up a huge lead on the field. So she was running like 85 seconds per lap, whereas the field was running 88s at the beginning. So quickly, you're sort of gathering a lot of time there. And then there was probably, with like 8 laps to go, Katherine certainly was running faster than the leader at that point. And then 3 laps to go, the leader sort of put the hammer down and opened it right back up to the margin that had been most of the race.
I believe Katherine was the only one to set a PR in this race. I know PRs are kind of rare at nationals, right?
Probably in the distance, certainly more so. But yeah, in most people, weren't really anywhere near their PRs. So the women who ended up being All-American, if I had looked at the sheet before, it kind of felt like, okay, these were the kids that I thought had the best chance or, should be in the mix. But there's a few women who ran really, really smart by just taking it a little bit easier the first couple miles and then looked really good the last couple miles. So it really was a funny race. Once you got like 3 to 4 miles and lapping started happening, you couldn't just walk to the track and figure out what was going on. Right. You would have had to really been watching it to know who was passing who and who was getting lapped and who was getting unlapped. So it didn't really seem like a nationals race in that way.
And runners are probably having to keep track of that in their minds also, like, oh, this person I already lapped. It's not like I'm now just going ahead of them, right?
Yeah, a little bit, because it certainly felt a little like people going back and forth. And Katherine said the whole way she sort of had this feeling that people were closer to her than they really were. So she was sort of running scared. I think the second half of the race where, and I guess we had never told her, oh, you have a pretty sizable lead on third, because once the lapping starts happening and the cheering starts happening, you can't really figure out what's really going on in the race as an athlete.
So how hot was it there?
So it was hot and humid and a warm wind. So it was sort of a trifecta of like, ugh. And it actually was, so for the sprint races, they were running into a significant headwind. We didn't really talk about that because it was so hot. So it probably felt like 80 during the race or something like that, because it was one of those days because of the humidity that feels like was hotter than the temperature. So we were probably getting pretty close to 80 at that point. But the temperatures on Friday and then Saturday for the 5K in particular were closer to feels like 90 plus, so really, really hot.
What was Katherine's feelings when she crossed the finish line? What did you talk to her about?
I think she felt, really sort of satisfied with the race. One thing I was asking her about, once we made the decision to only run the 10K, I said I thought it was good because I thought during the race you could really be like, this is it, versus oh, I'm going to do this again in 2 days. And because the race was so difficult, she said that really helped her to sort of feel like, okay, keep going because this is it. And she said, if she was running and thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do this again when it's going to be hotter in 2 days, that would have been definitely harder. So I think after she was happier with the decision just to run the 10K and really sort of put it out there versus trying to do both. But yeah, it was just a pretty quick turnaround because we were all right, let's get back, let's shower, let's eat, then let's go see D-Ray, and then we drove to the airport. So we just kind of were going all day, really.
Got to watch D-Ray, obviously. That in the first two throws, he was 13th. So that third throw was huge. What was everyone's reaction when they uncorked that one?
Yeah, it was a little. It was definitely a little bit dicey. So the first throw, I felt okay, that's workable. If he builds on it, it's great. And then the second throw was bad, and I was oh no. And then when he got that third throw in and moved up to third, it was just I felt relieved, and then I'm sure I didn't feel a quarter of the relief that he felt or Coach Fresh felt. They were both just thank goodness. Yeah. And literally you could see D-Ray just raise his arms and be thank goodness. We, had it on video, and it was just it was just really pure relief. But the other thing that was really special about it, when I talked to Fresh, between trials and finals, and we were both just oh, phew, that's great. But then seeing D-Ray right after, I think because the other two outdoor nationals have been pretty difficult, the fact that this was better, he was genuinely sort of one of the happiest kids I've ever seen in that moment. So sometimes you come in and, oh, I'm 15th, and you come in 14th, and it's all fine, it's all good. Or sometimes you come in like Katherine and do really well, and it's great, that's all good, but there's something different about the struggle he had been through the last 2 years in outdoor, and the sort of relief/happiness that comes along with that. And he had to kind of really sort of persevere through it. And then the other thing that was really awesome to see was his finals series, even though he got passed by one kid, was really good. Yeah. So once he got that first one in, the other ones were also really good. So it wasn't just one good throw. It was showing no, I am a good thrower, and this is what I can do. So.
Yeah, when you bring up outdoors, I mean, it seems like outdoors is just a different beast from indoors in so many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's in some ways actually more schools, and then you've got sort of weather things. So last year, what really happened in the discus was it just the skies opened up right as they were going, and so he got in for the warm-ups, and he had a bad fall in warm-ups, and that right there is really hard to come back from, just because you can't move in the circle the way you want to move in the circle. So for the throwers, the weather was really it was hot, but they don't care. That part of it was pretty perfect, and they felt the wind was good and the temperature was good and everything was sort of right in order for them to have a really good performance. But it's different. When you only get 3 chances, and just a little release can make something really different. That's a totally different experience than Katherine, who has almost 40 minutes to put her whole performance out there versus seconds.
So we've had some great distance runners here for women's track in recent years. Obviously, Jess Wilson, Katherine Cook. Now, both have Jess graduated last year. Katherine's graduated now this year. Who's next generation? Who are we looking for in cross country and track to keep this going?
Well, we have a lot of people coming back in cross country, which is really exciting. So most of our top 7 is coming back, and I think they feel really motivated. And we've got a whole it feels so early to say this, but I'm working on it today. But we have a lot of incoming kids who are distance runners. That's really what we focused on this year. So we got a couple people that I think can do something right away, and like a big sort of cluster of people that are definitely going to push everyone in the team to be better. So as odd as it sounds, like, I don't know, I just really shifted into like complete cross-country mode today, and that's sort of my next task, and I know the team's really excited about it.
And that feeds right into track, doesn't it?
Yeah. So there's, and my assistant today or the other day said, oh, I need the, incoming track emails to work on that thing. So I really realized today there's kind of only a week. This is the only week that we kind of don't tell them what to do. And beyond that, you're just always coaching all year, really, when the kids are middle distance runners. It's just the way it goes. And the same thing, the track people, they'll do their summer stuff starting, in July and get after it.
All right. Jay Hartshorn, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Fakorede's fourth-place finish in the discus throw on Thursday makes him an All-American for the third time in his career. He was in 13th place until a huge throw on his third attempt propelled him into the finals. We will have more on Fakorede and head coach Al Farashidyan on GoBatesBobcats.com in the upcoming weeks. The men's tennis duo of senior captain Ben Rosen and sophomore Jacob Kauppila won their opening round match at the NCAA Doubles Championships in 3 sets, earning All-America honors with the victory. They fell in the quarterfinals in 3 sets, but head coach Paul Gastonguay could not be more proud of their performance.
It's so competitive. It's drastically changed in 10 years where, there used to be maybe a match or two that you could have in a first round that was a little bit more manageable. But now, it's just so saturated with high-level talent that it's really anyone's tournament. It's who gets hot. And you just have to battle every match. So, unfortunately, Ben had a tough. He had to play the 4 seed from Pomona, who's a very good player, and Ben can beat him, but it wasn't his day, and that kid went on to the quarterfinals. So it's an exciting tournament because it's high quality every single match. So you have to be ready to go, and he was. It's just a tough tournament.
Well, and then the same day, though, he and Jacob were able to team up and win their first round doubles match, so it was great to see him bounce back like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty special when you have a first-year team. Jacob and Ben, were paired up for the first time. And for them to, go through that gauntlet of 8-game set matches all year, which is, it's kind of it's a tough go because you have one bad match or one break of serve against the team that you shouldn't, and all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in when they only select, 3 from each region and then 4 at larges. It's, with 16 teams in the country, it's very difficult to get in this draw out of the Northeast. So I was really pleased with making the tournament, and I can't say enough about the way they fought and competed against that CMS team. It was a very solid team made up of this year's finalist, who's a first year, and last year's finalist.
Wow.
Who's a sophomore in singles, but they're just excellent tennis players. So we battled hard, and can't say enough about Ben's leadership, but as well, got to mention Jacob as a sophomore, first time at NCAAs, just was pretty amazing and competed really, really well.
Yeah, it seemed like they really broke the will of that team from CMS there in the third set, didn't they?
They did. Ben brought his serve and really picked up the intensity, and we were all over the middle of the court. And there was a few really intense points that were really crazy all over the place. Quick reflexes at the net, recovering lobs, and surviving a couple overheads. And there was a few of those that we came out on top, and I think that swayed the momentum in our favor.
Seems like Jacob really thrives up by the net.
Yeah, we've worked hard on his skills. It's not necessarily something he had confidence in coming in last year, but we've been working a lot on his technique, and he's put a lot of time in, and he's really become an amazing volleyer. Some of the balls he made on the first volley is tough at his feet, where he's just phenomenal, and just point blank stuff where the guy's hitting it, 90 miles an hour right at him, he was able to handle. So, yeah, pretty cool to see the hard work pay off.
And this was Ben's first trip in doubles, at least, right? As a senior, that must have been pretty cool to see him get All-American in his first and last trip to the doubles championships.
Yeah, it was great. I actually got a text from Chris Ellis saying that, geez, I couldn't get him there, and a sophomore did, and I said, look, you were a big part of his development as a doubles player, and he learned a lot from you. But Ben, his serve improved so much this year, and just he's a force on the return game as well. And together they paired up to be just a pretty athletic team, and yeah, it was special. It's like I said, it's so tough to make this tournament for doubles especially, and to make it and then win a round against a tough opponent and be a couple points away from going through to the semifinals. It was, yeah, they gave it all they had, but I'll have flashbacks on that one for quite some time.
Yeah, that last match there against the pair from Wabash, I mean, they almost had that one, didn't they?
Yeah, we started off a little slow. They're a very good doubles team, straight up doubles, big serves, big returns, really solid at the net. They cross well. So, you have to play really solid against a team like that. You can't give them anything up high, and we were doing too much of that. We were giving them less aggressive balls, a little bit higher above the net, and they were just knocking them away. So the adjustment we made, we talked about, look, this is a simple game. Let's just get that ball down. I don't care where you hit it, but it's got to have energy. It's got to be low. And they did a really good job making that adjustment. We came storming back. And, in the third, we started off with a break, and, we were doing really, really well. But that team fought back too, and we had opportunities. It just didn't go our way. I mean, we left some points on the table.
And then, so Ben, obviously, his career now wrapped up. Looking back on it, I mean, 4 All-Americans, right? ITA plus NCAA. That's tied for second most in program history. I mean, one of the better players you've ever had, probably, right?
Absolutely. And we'll find out. He might still, depending if he gets top 20 ranking. End of the year ranking, he could still be an NCAA All-American through the ITA rankings. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Ben came into this program and just showed everyone how to work. And, he wasn't a superstar, but he had determination and grit and effort. And, he couldn't even play his first fall with us because he had a stress fracture in his back. He couldn't play in the summer, so we kind of brought him back slowly. And for him to have a great first year playing number 5 mostly in singles, was impressive based on, where he was coming from and the injury he had. And then he just worked super hard. We talk about with recruits and with our players, like, have the summer of Rosen, we call it. and basically just, taking everything from freshman year, whatever he learned, and just going to work. And he played tournaments all summer, trained, got stronger, changed his nutrition habits, just like made a huge physical difference. He got stronger, he got faster, and every year he got better. So pretty special person.
And then Jacob, only a sophomore. Are you already thinking about possible doubles combinations for the fall?
Yeah, I'm racking my brain, but I'm trying to give myself a little break before I do that. But you can't help it. Yeah, we had several coaches come up and say, wow, who's this kid? And he's just a natural doubles player and just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, the stuff he did even surprised me at times. I've seen it throughout the year, but he just thrives in that environment. He loves the intensity of that event, and when the pressure was on, he poured it on. He was great. So I'm super excited. We have a very young team. His class is very strong. So like I told him, I said, this isn't your last time here. We'll be back in singles and doubles. But that's an idea. It's a goal, but now everyone has to work. Yeah. So super excited about the future. Can't say enough about Ben and what he did to, change our culture to one of a work ethic and perseverance and just dedication. He's just a pretty special kid.
Next time on the Bates Bobcast, We'll recap the IRA National Championships. The men's rowing team is not expected to win. After all, they are facing boats with Olympic-level rowers from major universities. But we'll see just how many boats they can upset over 3 days in Mercer Lake, New Jersey. That's next time on the Bates Bobcast.
Bates!